An alignment is a position of agreement or alliance. Ooh, I love that definition of alignment, a position of agreement or alliance. So what are we aligning to? What are we getting an agreement with, an alliance with? What are we creating a partnership with? With our dreams, with our desires. Well, hello there, prosperity seeker, and welcome to another episode of The Prosperity Approach. I'm your host, Allyson Chavez. And I have really enjoyed the last couple of episodes talking about alignment. So I wanted to do a whole series this month, 4 more episodes, all about alignment. What it really is, why it's so important to get into alignment, how to tell when we're out of alignment, different tips for getting back into alignment and, realigning throughout the day. So I'm really excited to dive into this episode really about what alignment is and why it's so important to get into it. But before we do that, I have to say thank you for listening in or watching this podcast. And if you happen to be listening to this episode of the podcast, be sure that you are following this on your favorite app. And to stay up to date with the different things that we have going on, come visit us at allysonchavez.com. Got a really fun announcement at the end of this episode, so make sure that you listen clear to the end. And we've got free resources for you over there on allysonchavez.com, free meditations, different ways that you can let go of the struggle, really tap into your feminine and lead with your feminine, let the masculine support, because I am all about teaching the new success model for women, which does not include hustle or grind or constant pushing, but does require pleasure and play and pampering without the side helping of guilt. And throughout these next episodes, I'll explain more about how the new success model for women works and give you some other resources and ways that you can join us to learn more and more about that success model. So let's talk about why it's so important to get into alignment in the first place and what alignment creates in our life. So to do that, we need to get the dictionary definition of what alignment actually is. An alignment is a position of agreement or alliance. Ooh, I love that definition of alignment, a position of agreement or alliance. So what are we aligning to? What are we getting an agreement with, an alliance with? What are we creating a partnership with? With our dreams, with our desires. Now, we can see how it's important to be in agreement or an alliance with another person. And those things, those adjustments that we need to make maybe with our spouse, with our partner, when we're not aligned. In my world, we call it getting on the same page. Let's get on the same page. That means you're aligned, you're in agreement, you're in partnership, you're in alliance. But man, we have a hard time doing this with our dreams, don't we? We have a hard time doing this with our desires. We tend to argue against our dreams. We argue for our limitations. We deny our desires because we're afraid that our desires aren't God-given or somehow they're not God's will. And I've spoken into this before about how to know whether your will and God's will are aligned, but I make it really, really simple. If the idea that I have or the desire that I have lights me up and fills me with joy and has a potential for a double blessing, so it's going to bless somebody else's life, and it requires me to lean on the Lord and to lean on God for that extra guidance, to me, that is a green light that my will is aligned with God's. And I'll move down that road, trusting that God won't get me too far down. He won't let me get too far down the wrong path without giving me some very clear signs like uneasiness and doors closing and the things just like bizarre things happening to let me know I'm not on the right path. And boy, my whole world has opened up with that. But I really think that God wants you to get into agreement with him about how magnificent you are. You're his crowning glory. You're his greatest creation. But we argue with that when we tell ourselves we're not enough, when we tell ourselves our dreams are way beyond the realm of possibility, when we tell ourselves I couldn't possibly do that. What would people think? What would people say? Like when we shrink back from that. And so we really need to get into agreement with God and get into agreement with our dreams and our desires. That is alignment. Why is it so important to get into alignment? And what does alignment create for us as high achieving, God-centered women? What does alignment create? Well, first of all, a whole lot of ease. And a whole lot of joy. Isn't it nice when you're not arguing? Like when you just drop the internal argument and you drop the internal struggle and all of that massive internal suffering we put ourselves through, and we would just get into agreement with our dreams and we get aligned with them, it creates so much ease. It's what helps us get into flow. It deepens our trust. Like getting into alignment creates space. Think about that. Space for us to receive inspiration, space for us to release doubt and fear and uncertainty, because those are things that are required for us to release if we're going to receive our dreams and move forward toward our dreams. But alignment stops the internal argument because we're just getting into agreement. We're creating an alliance with our dreams. Now, alignment is tricky, all right? We don't just get into alignment once and then we never have to realign. We live on this planet and we have side winds that come at us and we have headwinds that come at us. And so we constantly have to realign. We got to keep checking the alignment. You know, I think about an airplane and they call it course correcting, but it really is just like aligning, getting the measurements to align back with the destination. Because if they just set the course once and then they're like, it's set, let's go. And there's nothing being taken into account. The headwind, the tailwind, the side wind, the storms, like any of that. If they're not constantly recalibrating and constantly realigning and course correcting, they actually end up hundreds of miles off course. We don't want to be hundreds of miles off course, but I think especially as high-performing women, we have a very, very high standard that we put on ourselves. And so then we put unnecessary pressure on ourselves. And then we think that we're wrong or that we're terrible because we don't stay aligned all the time. Oh, I was feeling better an hour ago. Now I'm feeling lousy. Or yesterday I felt great. Now I feel crummy. And what's wrong with me? And why can't I get this? It's because you have an unexpected side wind. That's all. You got into a bumpy patch where there's air pockets and it's causing turbulence. It's not a big deal unless you make it a big deal. The way that you make it not a big deal is just by understanding, oh, do you know what? I'm actually in argument with my dreams, which means I'm not in agreement, which means I'm out of alignment. So let's just get back into agreement. Could this be a possibility in my life? Yes. And do you know how I know that? Because it's somebody else's reality. I've seen somebody else living the life that I desire or having the results that I desire. And if she could do it, I can do it as well because I've decided. Don't make yourself wrong if you have to realign many times throughout the day, especially with the year that we've had, the years that we've had, where there's so much misalignment that's happened. And we can see the results of that, all of the uncertainty, all of the fear, the anger, the rage, like all of that. But that doesn't mean that you got to participate in that any longer. Your job is to stay aligned, stay in agreement with God, in agreement with your dreams, with your goals, with your desires, and then move forward in that direction under the assumption that they're going to happen. Not a wish and a prayer, but in the certainty that, of course, and if this doesn't work, then something else even better is going to work. It's very easy. It's a decision, and it's committing to that decision to continually stay aligned and continually realign. Because what you're after is the experience that desire is going to bring you, the feeling that desire is going to bring you when you're living it in your life. but you can't live it if you're not aligned with it. So get into agreement with it, and you are going to save yourselves so much heartache and so much frustration and so much reaching your goals and feeling unfulfilled. It's amazing how the game changes when you get aligned. It becomes so much easier and so much simpler and so much more fun to play. And now for our exciting announcement. If you are a high-performing, high-achieving woman who's in charge of her own income, and what I mean by that is you get to write your own paycheck or determine how much money you're making from month to month. So if you're any place in the real estate industry, or if you're in high commission sales, if you're a female entrepreneur of any kind, I have created a live 2-day in-person event that I'm hosting next month, and I invite you to join us. We're going to spend 2 days really deconstructing the new success model for women so that you're out of hustle, you're out of grind, you're out of that frustration and the burnout that is caused by playing an old, outdated model of success that really doesn't serve us. I've created a new success model for women that plays to our unique strengths, our unique gifts, that fills us with joy, with purpose, with radiance, and also allows us to have phenomenal outward results. So come join us for that next month. For more information and to purchase your ticket, go to prosperityapproach.com/live.